know that feeling, right? You're in a thrift store and you find that perfect vintage piece. It's like it's calling out to you. Well, today we're going to dive into the much, much darker side of secondhand shopping. We're talking about what happens when the history attached to an object is something way more sinister than just a low price tag. And this is the question, isn't it? I mean, we all love a good bargain. But what if the real cost is something you can't see? What if that cool thing you just brought into your house isn't just a thing? And look, this isn't just some old spooky story you tell around a campfire. We're talking about a very real, very recent wave of events. It was around 2025 that these reports started popping up everywhere. Stories about totally innocent-looking items causing accidents, sudden illnesses, and just really strange phenomena that nobody could explain. Okay, so let's get into the details. We're about to open up the case files on 3 of the most disturbing incidents that really kicked this whole thing off. These are the stories that went viral, and trust me, it was for all the wrong reasons. So our first case, this one takes us to Ohio. A woman buys this antique porcelain doll for like $15 at a Goodwill. Seems like a simple, almost cliche start to a scary story, right? Well, this one quickly spiraled into something else entirely. The weirdness started small, but escalated fast. First, the family dog wouldn't even go in the same room as the doll. Then you get the classic stuff. Lights flickering, doors slamming shut on their own. But then it got worse. Actual scratches started appearing on the walls. The owner got so freaked out she sold it, but guess what? The new buyer reported the exact same things happening. It all came to a head when the police were finally called, and they found an unexplained blood stain on the doll's dress. But maybe the single most chilling piece of evidence came from what's called an EVP. That's electronic voice phenomena. The original owner made a recording, and through all the static, you can hear a little kid's voice, clear as day, saying just 2 words: play with me. All right, let's move on to the next case because the pattern just keeps building. Now we're heading down to Texas for the story of a $40 antique mirror. Someone bought it at a flea market, thought it would look beautiful in their home, but what it reflected back was pure terror. So here you can really see the 2 sides of this thing. The buyer's experience was just awful. The whole family started having nightmares about this strange woman. A whole series of bizarre accidents started happening, and then they started seeing actual shadow figures moving in the mirror's reflection. When they took it back, the seller finally confessed where it came from, an estate sale where the previous owner had died under very mysterious circumstances. Our last case is out of California, and honestly, this one might be the most tragic. It's about an $8 vintage silver necklace bought by a teenager. Just an innocent little purchase that seems to have kicked off a month of absolute, total devastation for her and her family. I mean, just look at this timeline. It is terrifyingly fast. Day 1, she buys and wears the necklace. By the second week, she gets into a car accident. Week 3, she's hit with this sudden, strange illness doctors couldn't explain. And by the 4th week, her grandmother dies, completely out of the blue. It turns out the necklace belonged to a woman who had died in a fire, and she had supposedly worn it until the end. So, as you can imagine, these stories did not stay quiet for long. They absolutely exploded online and ignited this massive phenomenon. Let's take a look at how these personal horror stories became a full-blown viral trend that just swept across social media. 2 million. That is how many views the teenager from the necklace story got on a single TikTok video of her burning the necklace in her backyard. That number alone just shows you the insane scale and reach these stories got practically overnight. So, what made this all go so viral? Well, a huge chunk of it, about 40%, was just piggybacking on the popularity of thrift haul videos that were already huge. Then you've got 30% from people just hooked on the chilling coincidences. Another 20% came from cursed item challenges. Yeah, people were actually going out looking for this stuff. And finally, about 10% were people sharing these stories as a genuine warning to others. And it wasn't just dolls and mirrors. On places like Reddit and forums like r/thrift store horror, people were reporting all kinds of things. You had people linking Ouija boards to poltergeist activity, old photographs that gave them the constant feeling of being watched, and even vintage clothes that left them with unexplained bruises. This quote from one of those online forums really gets to the heart of the psychological impact. I burned it. The dream stopped, but I still hear whispers. It just goes to show you, even when the object is long gone, the experience can leave a permanent mark. Okay, so after all of these terrifying stories, you're probably wondering,
is it even safe to go to a thrift store anymore? So let's switch gears a little and talk about some actual practical advice from law enforcement and paranormal experts on how to be a more cautious buyer. So the experts have a kind of 4-step guide. First, if you can, try to research an item's history. Second, and this is probably the most important one, trust your gut. If something just feels wrong about an item, leave it. Just walk away. Third, some people suggest cleansing rituals, but honestly, there's no guarantee any of that works. And finally, and this is serious, if you think an item might actually be linked to a crime, report it to the police.
So we've gone through the cases, we've seen how it all went viral, and we've talked about the advice. It really all boils down to one last, pretty unsettling thought about the things that we all choose to bring into our lives.
Just think for a second about the stuff in your own home. That old painting on the wall, that antique chair in the corner, that piece of jewelry you found at a flea market. Every single object has a past. The only question is, do you really know what that past is? And did you bring home more than just a bargain?